Congratulations, AP Statistics. You have made it to the last lesson of our course, and we are going to be talking about inference for linear regressions. So basically, we're going to mostly be looking at slope for these. Slope is, the relationship between a explanatory variable to its response variable, so your x to its y. Just remember our regression lines. I don't know why they've written it this way because I think this is actually the way it is on the formula sheet, but I'm going to double check. So yeah, let's see, we want to prove that anxiety does interfere with student performance. So we want to look at the strength of a correlation, which also has a relationship to slope. We learned this way a long time ago, I believe in chapter 3. So we're going to do a lot of chapter 3 review here as well. There's two things you can do. You can either do a T interval, so we could do that confidence interval, or we're going to do a T test. So notice that these linear regression also follow our T distribution, just like our means did. You can see the introduction, the states here. We want to estimate. So whenever you're doing a confidence interval, you start with, we want to estimate the true slope of the regression line that represents the association between what are you going to be defining? So your explanatory variable to your response variable at what percent confidence level. And your regression test. So this beta is actually your slope. So what do you believe that the slope is? Where beta, the null, is the true slope of whatever you're going to define in context. Since this is a linear regression, we actually can use the acronym linear here because this has got a lot of conditions to check. One's gonna be tricky. So does the scatter plot appear to be linear? So just kind of look at it. Does it look like it's got a linear sketch? You really want to focus on the residual plot. So when the residual plot has no pattern to it, it looks very random, then we say that the scatter plot does appear to be linear. We've got a linear relationship. So I know this says scatter plot, but I think the residual plot, if you have one, is a better guide. Independent, is the sample less than 10% of the population? In other words, that 10% rule. Normal, the histogram of the residual values is roughly symmetric. Wow, we have to make a histogram of our residuals. Now, don't panic. You're probably not going to have to do this on your own. This should be something given to you on the AP exam. Let's see, equal standard deviation. The scatter, I'm guessing the scatter plot of the scatter of residual plot appears to be equally distributed above and below 0. So you don't see a lot of distance above and very little distance below your residual line. Okay, the A is just and because we just needed something for the A, and R is random, stated as a random sample or reasonably assumed. And then we say the conditions are met for a linear regression t-test. All right, so your calculator, you do a linear regression t-interval. But if you had to do this by hand, you take the slope, which is your point estimator, plus or minus t star, standard error of your slope. Here's a good one, is that you do need to remember that now degrees of freedom are n minus 2. And you might be saying, well, why is it n minus 2? Just remember, because in a scatter plot, there are two variables. There's your x variable and your y variable. So that's just kind of a little way to remember that degrees of freedom are n minus 2. Let's see, your I just noticed calculator is spelled wrong there. All right, but For your, let's see, linear, if we're going to do a test instead of an interval, your t-value, of course, is your observed slope minus your null slope divided by your standard error. Still, degrees of freedom are n minus 1. And like it says for both of these, most of the time you're just going to be reading a computer output. We'll see an example. Conclude, we are blank percent confident that the interval from what to what captures the slope. So we are all about the slope in these problems. And if we're doing a test of significance, since the p-value is so small, we can either reject or there is evidence. Let's see. And then since the p-value is so large, we fail to reject. So same old, same old. So let's look at a problem like this and just realize most of this information is going to be given to you. So they may actually give you the raw numbers, they may not. They gave this one, they did give the raw numbers, but they've already given us the scatter plot with the regression line included. They've given us the residual plot. So remember, the residual plot is the distance of each one of these points to your regression line. So this point right here is probably this point right here. So that's the distance back to that line. We can see there's no pattern here, so we would say this is a linear fit. They're going to give you a printout, right? They're going to give you something that looks like this. So you might see all of this information given to you. So don't panic that you have to you have to come up with all of this on your own. So we need to really focus on how to read something like this. Also, they've given us this, and this is that histogram of the residuals that we needed to look at, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so this was a problem that tried to find a relationship between a student's grades in high school to their grades in their first year of college to see if there's a relationship between that. So, is there evidence of an association between high school and first year college GPAs? We have high school and first year college. Okay. Oh, sorry. So this one is a test. Okay. We have high school and first year college GPAs for a random sample. We want to know if there's an association between high school and first year college GPAs. I don't know what that's there for, but I think it's just kind of restating what they're looking for. So here's our state. Let's look at our null hypothesis. There's no association between high school and first year college GPAs. In other words, the null is equal to 0. There is an association between high school and first year college GPAs. So in other words, our null slope is not equal to 0. So this should really feel like kind of we're bringing everything together that we've done. You can see we've put our null in words as well as a numeric equation here, okay, and a numeric inequality. Our plan, so our L-I-N-E, we don't actually write the A and R. So linear, the data appear to be linear in the scatter plot. So let's see if that's true. Let's back this up. Okay. All right. So that's when we go to our, now it says in the scatter plot, but I really feel like if you said since there's no pattern in the residual, that would probably be a better answer there. So I don't know. That's just personally my opinion. Independent is the sample less than 10% of the population. So let's see. Oh yeah, definitely, because we only have how many numbers here? 1, 2, 3, doesn't even say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, I think we're good. So they just wrote it in words, but we have 15. I'm actually wondering, does it give it to us anywhere? Oh yeah, well, there's your degrees of freedom. 16, there we go. Okay, so 16 was our sample size. Okay, we'll just pointing some things out to you. Normal, the histogram is the residuals is unimodal and roughly symmetric. Actually, that is roughly symmetric. It's somewhat normal in its shape. Don't see any major outliers nor skew. Equal standard deviation. So the scatter in the residual plots appears to be equal above and below 0. This is a tricky one. I've never really seen anything like that. So I don't really see any points that are like I've got some high ones here and a few high ones here. So like if all the points had been like really close down here to the line, but higher up here or vice versa, then you might be into some trouble. Random, the students are from a random sample. I believe it says that, yep, right here, random sample. So we've got everything. Our plan is good. All right, I've made this a little smaller so that we can see everything on the same page. But let's go ahead and see where we're getting all these numbers from. So for right here, it says negative 1.5641. Okay, so if we're talking about, it's been a long time since we've done this. Right here and here, these two numbers where it says coefficient, your constant, and your the other number there. So their coefficients. So a coefficient to a constant is just a constant. The coefficient to your x value or your high school is your high school GPA. So that's your slope. Okay, so if we were talking about y equals mx plus b, the negative 1.56410, it's so small. It's a lot of decibels there. That's what's giving us this. Now notice that we always write that out in words. If you were to define some, like if you were to write an X here and you put an X there, I think you'd be okay. Things like that. So p-value can be found on the table, circle it above. So I just highlighted it so you could circle it so you know where those are. Oh, sorry, p-value. I take it back. So where is the p-value? On the table above. So the p-value is this number right here. So what it is, it's the probability of this occurring, of this slope occurring. All right, the coefficient occurring, and that's it right there. This do also points out a couple other things. The r squared they are pointing out here. So the r squared for the regression is 75.4. You can find that right there. The high school GPA seems to account for just over 75% of the variation in the first year college GPA. All right, the regression equation indicates that each additional tenth of a point in high school GPA corresponds to an increase in the first year college GPA by an average of 0.13 points. So I am not exactly sure why they wrote it that way in tenth of a point and did this adjustment. I would just say additional point and keep that as 1.3. Not sure what's going on there. That's we trust me, the examples we're going to do in class and what you're going to see are much simpler than this. I feel like a college professor put this one together just to be tricky. I don't know why they did this. This is kind of strange, but it does make sense why this is 0.13 because they're talking about tenth of a point. So they adjusted that slope. And for our conclusion, with a very small p-value, very, very small, we can reject the null hypothesis. There's strong evidence, very strong, of an association between high school and first year college GPAs. So then it says also, let's look at a 95% confidence interval. Degrees of freedom are right here in the problem. Not sure why they didn't put degrees of freedom up here, but they didn't. We've got that, oh my goodness, very complicated formula here. Okay. And don't worry about it. Yes, this is on your formula sheet, so you don't have to memorize that. There's our point estimate, plus or minus. Let's see, this is our confidence interval. So we get that from our T table. So when we look up 14 degrees of freedom, let's see, at 95% confidence, we're going to get this 2.14, or sorry, yeah, 2.145. Let's see, this 1.993. That is another value we can find on our tables. Notice that it says right here, the standard error of the coefficient. Well, we want the standard error of the slope of that y, and that's going to be that value right there. So that's where they got that from. We've got some range here, so between 0.8778 and 1.33. So remember, our null hypothesis was 0. 0 does not fall within this interval, therefore that's why we rejected. We are 95% confident that the first year college GPA increases on average between 0.888 and 1.73 points, each additional high school GPA point. Whew, sorry this video is very long, but I wanted to do it all in one shot instead of breaking it into 2 videos for you. So we'll look at some examples in class. It'll be much easier than this example, and I think you'll be able to get through it without any major complications.